Hey YouTube, oh, and hey Rasta, Turtle Eggs here, bringing you another AFK Journey video. One of my viewers asked me in Twitch chat just now, can you go over the EX weapon priority? And this is something that I talk about every single day, and I would be more than happy to. I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet, and I will try to give you the basic idea. That way, even if it's not super clear for you, even if you don't have the order memorized, you can kind of think about, okay, what's the most important thing in this game? And then kind of decide for yourself what heroes you should work on. Because not everyone's going to have every Celestial, not everyone's going to have every Hypogene. And you guys can say hi to YouTube, or, hi to your future self, your mom, anyone you want, Twitch chat if you'd like. Yeah, absolutely, Song TV. So, okay, the first thing I would say is that when it comes to the most important game mode in this game, what is the limiting factor? The limiting factor appears to be the EX weapon. As you can see here, I do have my Eironn EX weapon level 20, but in order to achieve an EX weapon that high, you need to assemble 150 title essences, 275 temporal essences, and 125 twilight essences. And for those of you guys who are fairly new to the game, these are the resources that I'm referring to. The twilight essences, the temporal essences, and the title essences. Now, how do you get each one of these essences? Well, title essences are very easy to acquire. You just basically have to do the Dream Realm boss, which is this one right here. The Dream Realm boss, in this case it's King Croaker. If you hit the trophy icon here, you will notice that just by ranking and by hitting the treasure chest icon here, you will notice that there are certain rewards. As you can see, you can get title essences fairly easily, because even if you are outside of top 100 in your server, you can still get 6 title essences. But you'll notice that the temporal essences, these yellow ones right here, which are arguably the hardest ones to get, those require achieving a high Dream Realm score for your server. Now, depending on which server you're on, this is going to be either doable or kind of impossible if you're a free-to-play low spender. If you ever think that you're going to be free-to-play or low spender for the duration of the life, or just the duration of you playing this game, I would highly recommend that you create a new character on the newest server available. Yes, you will for the short term be behind on accessibility to the Song of Strife season. However, I think your overall gaming experience will be better in the long run, given that you'll be competing with other people who most likely will not have spent more than you, or at least we will limit that to maybe if you're on like server 600 something, there's only like 2 or 3 people whaling in your server. And then, yeah, they'll be top 3 because they're just out DPSing you, but at least you will be one of the other remaining 7, hopefully, if you strategize and watch my videos and everything, in order to at least still secure either 4 temporal essences or 3 temporal essences. Yes, and with the Song of Strife season, you do also get additional rewards based on your placement in the district. Now this one, it's a little harder to control because it's entirely possible that when they combine the districts, they might combine like 4 free-to-play servers with 1 Leviathan server. That you can't control as much, but thankfully the Twilight essences are nowhere near as important as the temporal essences. And to be frank, if you do place really high in your district, you'll end up with too many Twilight essences and not enough temporal essences anyways. So anyways, I digress. Now, are there any other game modes that give anywhere near as many daily temporal essences? And the answer is no. As a matter of fact, the only place to get daily sources of temporal essences is the Dream Realm. Heck, there's not really any other game mode that even offers weekly temporal essences. So for this reason, any heroes that are viable against the Dream Realm boss are going to be the first ones that you prioritize with your EX weapon. And I know I haven't done the rankings yet. Some people just want me to just, rapid fire go, okay, number 1, number 2, number 3, but I'm just kind of telling you the thought process behind this. So as you can see here, you can kind of toggle between the different Dream Realm bosses to see, oh, interesting, Smokey and Odie are in a lot of the Dream Realm bosses. Oh, Marilee and Koko, they're also in a lot of endgame Dream Realm boss formations. Or like, oh, everyone's running a Reinier. Maybe that should be my first Hypogene Celestial. And then from there, you can be like, okay, well, now that I know, which, and this is a new feature, the recommended formations that was released with Talene's release. So I think 2 days after the recording of this video, you should be able to find the endgame team formations for every single Dream Realm boss. And those will be the heroes that you get EX10 first. I would highly recommend that for the time being, what I always recommend is EX5, the crucial units, EX5, your Dream Realm units, EX5, your Supreme Arena units, EX5, your AFK stage pushing units. And with the, the records, which you can check by, like, let's say I go into an AFK progress, go into the AFK stage, right? And so on the bottom left here, there's like a scroll, you click on that, and then you click on records, and it provides you information on the teams that were used to clear that stage. You can see their formation, and you can see like, oh, at very high deficit pushing, people are running Rowan, Eironn, Smokey, Lumont, and Olmus, or maybe as another example, it seems to me like people are running Phraestos a lot, or Rowan, Smokey, Eironn once again. Maybe I should prioritize EX10ing my Rowan, Smokey, and Eironn, especially Smokey, given that he is also Dream Realm worthy. So I digress. Okay, so now let's go over my personal rankings. And by the way, guys, if this stream goes potato every now and then, I apologize. It's my Airbnb. I'm on a travel journey right now, so I'm at the mercy of my Airbnb internet. Can you explain again why Smokey does so much damage? Yes. So the reason why Smokey does so much damage is because when you go into the EX weapon here, just by unlocking the EX weapon, level 1, the special aroma gains the 3rd upgrading effect, extending the skill effect range by 1 tile. The aroma will be enhanced for 10 seconds when the skill gets the 3rd upgrade. So meaning the 3rd ultimate, every time your Smokey does the ultimate, the healing range increases in range. And then with the 3rd ultimate, the healing range turns even wider, and then it turns blue. When it turns blue, any enemies in that blue aura, the 3rd upgrade, right, makes the enemy in the skill range lose 12% of their max HP per second. This is very important because if it's 10 seconds, that means technically they lose 120% of their max HP, which means that if you're able to keep all 5 enemies within the blue aura for the entirety of that blue aura, they will most likely die unless they revive again like Doran, because the first Doran will die, the next Doran will appear, or unless you're fighting a Shakir in wolf mode that's constantly healing himself, or Saturana in her other healing mode, being able to heal up. Most heroes will die in the blue fog. And then the reason why EX10 is super important is because the enemy is stunned for 0.1 seconds when losing HP each time during the aroma enhancement. So this is very important for deficit pushing, not so much for Dream Realm, because Dream Realm, you cannot stun the boss, right? They're CC immune, they're crowd control immune. But for the AFK stage deficit pushing, sometimes you will face an annoying mobile enemy like a Marilee or a Vala or a Reese that are running around the map, even if you vacuum them with your aura, with your Eironn into Smokey's blue aura, they can walk out of the blue aura as well. However, what I typically do is I go manual for deficit stage pushing. I will use my Eironn ult to group everyone together just as my Smokey is casting his blue aura, right? Like I'll count like, okay, Smokey has already ulted twice, and then as soon as the third ultimate, you have to count with Smokey. When your Smokey's about to ult for the third time, then I manually activate my Eironn to bring everyone within the blue aura. That way, the blue aura activates, they've been vacuumed in. Eironn has crowd controlled them for 6 seconds, right? When you have an EX10 Eironn, they're immobilized for 6 seconds, and the blue aura locks them in place. So, quite good, quite good. What do I recommend as the top priorities for EX10s, which requires 75 temporal essences? I would recommend Marilee. I would recommend Odie. And I would recommend probably Smokey as the first 3 heroes that you EX10. Oh, and also Reinier. But Reinier you might not do right away if you're working towards getting 8 copies of him to get him to Mythic Plus. But Reinier would be another one too. So why these 4? The reason for these 4 is because Odie, Marilee, Smokey, and Reinier are all very important in most, if not all, of the Dream Realm boss runs. And what makes Odie so powerful is that he applies poison stacks, which deals damage that scales off of the enemy's. Let me see. Well, Odie just does a ton of insane damage. And then for Marilee, Marilee is a Dream Realm hero because she at EX with her EX weapon, her normal attacks deal true damage after reaching max stacks. Yeah, so Marilee's attack is increased by 5% when other allies cast an ultimate up to 6 stacks. So when your other allies perform 6 ultimates in total, her normal attacks will start doing true damage instead. True damage, this clause is extremely important because what it means is that Marilee is bypassing the enemy's physical and magic defense, which in endless mode of Dream Realm makes it so that she does more damage than most other heroes in the game. Yeah, and with EX10, the reason why I recommend her EX10 is because since she's going to be doing the majority of the damage, you want to increase that damage cap as much as possible. So EX10 Marilee makes a lot of sense. Now Korin, he's another fantastic unit to EX10. Now this is debatable. Some people feel like even with Korin doing true damage, the difference between EX5 and EX10 is not that much. But I would say that it's still very significant. And Korin, by the way, is the largest DPS output hero against the Crystal Beetle. So for those of you guys who have not fought the Crystal Beetle yet, or maybe the Crystal Beetle is still ongoing and you're wondering how to secure that top 50 rank for the nice Crystal Beetle medal, right? EX10 Korin's going to push your score up higher. Yeah, in that case, does 1 extra % from 10 to 15 worth it? Yes, Song TV. And Song TV is referring to Smokey's blue aura. I'm actually, now that I got my Talene to EX20 today, I'm actually going to bring Smokey to EX20 next. Because I'm running Smokey everywhere in AFK stage pushing, as well as the Dream Realm. But why do I recommend Korin as EX10 next? The reason is because when Korin and allies within 2 tiles cast their ultimates 3 times in total, Korin's arms feel nature's power, enchanting his spear with wilder magic, dealing additional true damage equal to 2% of the target's max HP for 8 seconds with the follow-up attacks. Extra damage cannot exceed 40% of Korin's attack. And then EX5 increases his attack speed. EX10 more true damage. Yes. True damage is very important in the Dream Realm bosses. And then finally, I'm kind of losing my voice here, but Reinier, why do we want him EX10? The reason for that is because Reinier, the reason why pretty much everyone unanimously agrees that Reinier should be the first Hypogene / Celestial you pull, get him to Mythic Plus to unlock his EX weapon, because just by getting a level 1 EX weapon, the last clause here, Reinier deals 200% damage to an enemy, knocking them down with dynamic balance, increasing their damage taken by 25% until the battle ends. This is huge, especially before Song of Strife was released, because no other support could do this much universal support. Like, how should I say? No one can cause your damage output to increase that much for your team overall than Reinier can. I think the only exception would be Kruger, with him doing the 40% physical defense shred, but Kruger only helps physical damage dealers, which means that Odie does not benefit from Reinier, because Odie is magic, right? So, and then EX10 reduces the position switch allies damage by 25% till the battle ends. So what is this referring to? What is this whole dynamic balance thing? Well, let me show you real quick. If you enter the Dream Realm, okay, so notice how I have my Reinier here, right? And Reinier is run in pretty much all the endgame Dream Realm teams. So Reinier, notice how there's a red ring around King Croaker and there's a purple ring around my Odie. So Reinier will dynamic balance the nearest ally of him with the enemy position in the opposite mirror image on the opposite side. So if you take this map, divide it in half, and fold the map like a piece of paper, Odie and Croaker should kiss, right? Like, we learned this in kindergarten. So so basically when Reinier dynamic balances Odie will get a 12% attack increase. It might actually be more depending on your season resonance level. I haven't checked. But more importantly, Odie will be taking 25% reduced damage, and King Croaker will take 25% increased damage dealt, or taken, I'm sorry, until the end of battle. This happens instantly, guys. So, and not to mention, Reinier does other things too, but that's the main reason you run Reinier in a Dream Realm team. And so basically, because the Dream Realm boss will always be positioned here, so whoever you position here will be the beneficiary of the 25% damage reduction, as well as the other stat boosts that Reinier provides. Okay, so now that we've talked about that, after you get those 4 to EX10, I mean, that's going to take a free-to-play and low spender a while, because if, as a free-to-play, let's say you make like top 100 in the Dream Realm, or let's say you're a Giga Chad free-to-play or low spender, and you get, let me just cross-reference, make sure this is realistic. Let's say you're on a brand new server like I advised you, and let's say you're a Giga Chad and you do make top 50 in the Dream Realm. You should be getting 2 temporal essences per day, which translates to 60 temporal essences per week. And so that, along with, say, like 15 extra temporal essences that you get from the one-time rewards from different modes in the game, you should be able to get at least one hero from EX5 to EX10 per month. However, given the limited amounts of one-time rewards for temporal essences, I think realistically most people will not get more than 2 to 3 heroes to EX10 per month. So those 4 recommendations right there, Odie, Smokey, Marilee, Korin, and Reinier, those 5 heroes to EX10, that's already going to take you 2 months. So let's say you're on month 3. Okay, now I got those weapons to EX10. What do I work on next? Bowling Owl, thank you so much for the follow. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. You're on YouTube, by the way. What other units would I EX10 next? Well, the next one I would EX10 would be Cassadee. And the reason for this is because Cassadee's EX10 is one of the most powerful in this game in terms of just flat out boosting her damage output like crazy. And Cassadee is run in a lot of Dream Realm boss formations prior to Endless Mode, which will be most people. And then also AFK stage deficit pushing, because Cassadee is one of the 3 or 4 heroes in this game that can crowd control enemies into Smokey's blue aura. So what makes her EX10 so powerful? Well, first of all, we need to understand how Cassadee works, because Cassadee is a support mage. Her damage scales off of the performance of her team. So if you're going to pair her up with, say, like an Odie, or say like a Marilee, and maybe pairing up with other heroes like Korin, just heroes that have very high attack speed, or you pair her up. Oh, and also is another hero that does high attack speed. Also, you have heroes like Brian or Florabelle that when she does the ultimate, okay, so her ultimate, what does it do? The running tide, which is her ultimate, or what does her EX weapon do? I'm sorry. The EX weapon, what it does is it makes her ultimate running tide when she casts her ult, and the tidal wave rushes through from one side of the map to the other, grants all allies on the path a temporary buff, empowering their next 6 normal attacks with the effect of tidal strength. And if you go to her skill, her tidal strength deals 60% of her magic damage, 60% magic damage every 6 normal attacks by your blessed ally. Usually it will just be the ally that you blessed at the start of the match. However, every time she ults and she has this EX weapon, she will bless everyone within that path, and they will all be activating her tidal strength, so she'll be doing 60% magic damage a lot. However, when you have an EX10, when an enemy takes damage from the tidal strength 6 times, they will be hit by undercurrent once immediately. What is this undercurrent? This undercurrent does 240% magic damage. So what this essentially translates to is, and by the way, when she ults, all of these heroes do this additional undercurrent damage every time she does tidal strength 6 times. So what does this mean? This means like you almost double her damage output. And so you'll see some crazy runs sometimes where your Cassadee is actually the main damage dealer depending on who you paired her up with. Like if you look at the drill runs, for instance, I can actually show you this, because Cassadee is very much not only a Dream Realm and deficit pushing hero, but she is also a battle drills hero because of her ability to bless the heroes and do a ton of damage. So if you look at the top scorer in my guild against the giant golem, you should see a Cassadee. And look at how much damage Cassadee is doing. Like it actually rivals that of Odie. How is this even possible? It was because his his Cassadee is at least EX10, to get that additional damage. Plus you paired Cassadee up with fast attackers, fast attack speed heroes such as Ulsa and Odie. That's why Cassadee does so much damage. And Cassadee also performs like this against the Dream Realm boss. Okay, so after Cassadee, who would I recommend next? At this point, I would say that it would make sense to start building EX10s for heroes that are useful in deficit pushing. So who is useful in deficit pushing from start to finish? Oh, and by the way, also in Supreme Arena as well, because you do want to get Twilight Essences from Supreme Arena. I would recommend getting Eironn to EX10 next. The reason for this is because Eironn uh, what's amazing about him is, he unlocks his Eironn archetype, which everybody knows at this point. He enables arguably the most powerful team, or one of the top three most powerful teams in arena, regular arena, and supreme arena. You will run him there. And then Eironn is also necessary in deficit pushing, because initially, when you're in the baby stages, you will run an Eironn crowd control team to clear like the first, I don't know, 700, 800 stages, AFK stages. But then after that, when you start deficit pushing, especially at stage 1400 and higher, you're going to run Eironn with Smokey next. So one way or the other, you will run Eironn in your deficit pushing team, because he crowd controls from turn 0 if you have his EX weapon unlocked. Now, when you get him EX10, the immobilized duration increases from 3 seconds to 6 seconds, and this is why his EX10 is so powerful. Now, getting your Cassadee and Eironn to EX10 will probably take you another month. So by this time, you'll be on month 4, and this is I'm speaking for the free-to-plays, okay? So after your Eironn and your Cassadee, who should you work on next? So at this point, I would say probably, so this is debatable. You could go Koko. And the reason for this is because what I've noticed, and many of you guys can attest to this too, is that Koko is pretty much in every single Dream Realm team at the start of the Song of Strife season. And the reason for that is because your heroes just cannot survive. Nowadays in endless mode, no one runs Koko, I'm sorry. Koko goes from being in all 6 or 5 out of 6 of the Dream Realm meta teams to 0. But what makes Koko so important during the first couple ascensions of the Dream Realm boss is that Koko applies a 45% damage mitigation. Remember, you get essence from factions in Trial of the Abyss as well, Turtle. Oh, thank you, Inkia. Thank you. Yeah, so that's right. So maybe you'll get like three heroes to EX10 per month if you're free to play. And maybe 4 if you're a low spender. So Koko would be the next one I would EX10. As a matter of fact, depending on where you're at in the Song of Strife season, you might want to build her to EX10 now, just because she'll probably be more relevant now. And actually, I stand corrected. Koko is still viable against the Alpha Bear, but I think that's pretty much it. Hey Harry, good to see you. You're on YouTube right now. We're doing an EX10 weapon tier list. Okay, so now that we've talked about Koko, so Koko was next, and then who else would I recommend? I would consider Arden for EX10. And the reason for that is because generally speaking, if you're trying to build a crowd control Eironn team, you do want a little bit more damage from Arden. Not to mention Arden is used in deficit pushing as well, so Arden will have a role in both Supreme Arena as well as deficit pushing, because some deficit pushing AFK stages require you to run, say, like an Arden and Florabelle. That actually happens quite a lot for a couple hundred stages. So Arden EX10 and Florabelle EX10 would be, I would say, those are good suggestions if you want to EX10 a hero that is relevant in multiple modes. Not to mention, Florabelle does enable an archetype, a whole archetype. Doesn't even need burial. You could do like Florabelle Damian, Florabelle Cessia, Florabelle Brian, because she will shield all summons. Heck, even Florabelle Phraesto. Yeah, hi mom, hi YouTube. Yes. Okay, so I don't want this video to be too long. It's already 29 minutes. So then the last couple heroes that I would recommend, if by chance you pick up a second Celestial or Hypogene, which most of you should by the time you're on month 3 or month 4, I would highly recommend that if you got your Scarlita second, that you EX10 her, or if you got your Phraesto as the second Hypogene or Celestial, you get him EX10. So either Phraesto or Scarlita next, because by month 4 or month 5 you're already working on your second celestial or hypogene, I would imagine. So why, right? The reason is because Scarlita at EX10, she's able to yeet enemies off the map. Scarlita is quite a universal unit, especially in the Song of Strife season, where she's relevant in Supreme Arena, Dream Realm, as well as deficit pushing. And the reason for this is her ability to not only do true damage, but to also knock enemies out of the battlefield. We call this yeeting an enemy off the battlefield. This is very important because against certain units like Talene, like Doran, like Igor, like Shakir, like Seth, and like 2 other heroes that have the potential to either out heal themselves from Smokey's blue aura or to just have cheat death mechanics. Scarlita has a way to work around that by just knocking them out of the battlefield. Just make that cheat death mechanic irrelevant. We're on YouTube? Yes, Joey, we're on YouTube right now. So, and Scarlita is one of those units where the higher her EX weapon, the easier it is to knock enemies out of the battlefield. So very powerful. Scarlita greater than Talene. I'm not caring much about Pesto since I have a Juice Thorn. Yeah, Scarlita more than Talene because right now Scarlita is relevant in 3 battle modes: Dream Realm, Supreme Arena, and AFK stages, whereas Talene is relevant in 2. Dream Realm and Supreme Arena. Some people are running her in occasionally in AFK stage deficit pushing, but for me personally, I haven't successfully cleared a deficit stage with Talene, even if I copy the formation. Yeah, so I would presume it has partly to do with her Talene needing really high EX investment, like EX20 for instance. Mine's was EX12 before the recordings or the replay stopped appearing for Talene. Okay, and then for Phraesto, why an EX10 Phraesto? The reason for that is because, first of all, he is used in all 3 game modes: Supreme Arena, Dream Realm, and AFK stage deficit pushing. But for the AFK stage deficit pushing, he shows up in the replay for almost every single stage, like 95% of them. And the reason for that is because he's super tanky. And the thing is that at EX, when you level up his EX weapon, he gets more stat boosts than the average hero. And I get the feeling it has to do with him being a celestial or hypogene. Most heroes will gain a 2.3% stat boost per level up between levels 10 through 15 for the EX weapon. But in Phraesto's case, he actually gains like 2.8% per level up, which is quite significant. And he's like, if you're looking for a tank who does not die, even in deficit pushing, he's the best. And he can deficit push at Mythic Plus, by the way. Yeah, I was deficit pushing with him for across like maybe 70 of the 120 stages that I cleared during the time that I was still gathering stellar crystals to get him Supreme Plus. Yeah, so, and because there are times in deficit pushing where there's just a little bit of HP left, to defeat the enemy, Smokey's blue aura has already subsided, and at that point your Eironn and your Phraesto are Monka trying to defeat the last bit of HP on the enemy. Having a higher attack percent Phraesto can be the difference between victory or a time fail. So for this reason, I do believe an EX10 Phraesto makes a whole lot of sense. Plus, he's just such a flexible hero. So that's pretty much it in terms of the priorities. Honorable mentions would be Granny, which is this hero here, because Granny is necessary for deficit pushing, and you do run her in Supreme Arena. Another honorable mention is Rowan for the same reason. Actually, for his EX10, it's actually quite powerful because once per fight, he is able to create a health potion that turns into a super health potion, which is very important for emergency burst healing. Okay. Any other honorable mentions? I would say Vala, because even though Vala is only used in one game mode, which is Supreme Arena, however, she is always relevant whenever you're fighting a Primal Lord. Well, actually, used to be always. Now she's not relevant in Crystal Beetle. She dies too quick. But in the past, I anticipate that for most normal Primal Lord bosses, that Vala will be the best DPS when they go below 50% HP. Unfortunately, with the Crystal Beetle, Vala was still not best in slot, unfortunately. But I anticipate for all future Dream Realm bosses, knock on wood, Vala will still be relevant as the best DPS, because when the enemy dips below 50% HP, Vala goes into her melee stance to do extra damage, and that has less to do with the EX weapon and has more to do with her kit overall. Yeah, because with her, in auto battle mode, Vala switches to sword mode and prioritizes the marked enemy if the HP ratio is lower than 50%. So when you're fighting against a Primal Lord boss or a Drill Run boss that's below 50% HP, she enters into melee stance and is able to do a lot more damage than her Sky Blaster stance. So I think that should be everything. Other honorable mentions would be Hewynn, because Hewynn at EX10, actually Hewynn might be higher priority than Rowan, depending on how you look at things, because Hewynn, at EX10, she is able to mitigate damage a little bit more, and also she is able to boost her healing output by quite a bit with Revitalize. Yeah, Hewynn's healing grants buffs from Revitalize. Revitalize means you just have higher healing output. Anything else? Thorn is always a consideration. Unfortunately, Thorn is no longer used in deficit pushing. He's not used at all, but he is relevant in some Dream Realm bosses, and he is of course relevant in Supreme Arena, especially with his season skill, and he's also relevant in Primal Lord fights sometimes. So for this reason, EX10 Thorin does make a lot of sense as well. And I think that's it. And there's an argument to be made as well that Damian EX10, actually most if not all supports, you cannot go wrong with going for EX10. In Damian's case, he inspires the allies and grants them 50 haste. If you, for whatever reason, run, say, like a Diurnal comp where the haste really helps out, or, just having a temporary buff really helps out, then an EX10 would help. Although, actually, I kind of digress, or I take that back, because EX1, he already grants the haste. Yeah, but EX10, increasing your hero's haste by an extra 10 is actually quite significant. I will remember it, Turtle. Sounds good, Turtle. I've never understood why they recommend EX level 8 Thorn. Yeah, it's because of the stats. Actually, if I ever talk to Analytica, or no, it's not Analytica that came up with this, it was Pridewin. And I don't know anyone personally from Pridewin. So you can ask Pridewin. I think it's bad advice, personally. Yeah, I would either go EX5 or EX10. Don't stop in between. It's kind of like going to college and stopping halfway through. Like, unless you ran out of money to continue college, you should, or if you find out later it was a bad idea, that would be the only time that I would stop progression midway through. Yeah. Or in my case, because I knew for sure that Talene, I was going to EX15 her for the additional revival, So that's the only reason I had her at EX 11, 12, 13, 14 along the way. Because might as well spend the temporal essences if you're 100% sure you're going to bring the hero there. So the only reason why I would EX 8 a hero is because I don't have enough to EX 10 the hero yet. But I wouldn't use EX 8 as a stopping point. Yeah. I feel like I have to debunk that every day. Yeah, but anyways, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. I'm sorry this was rambly. I apologize for the occasional potato quality of this stream. Hopefully you heard me loud and clear still. If you have questions or if you want to ask about another hero that you're thinking about bringing to EX10, do let me know in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next video.